We also catch up with Anna after a long time, and she seems to be enjoying that sweet singing. Lady Scroll walks into the scene and informs Anna that Sister Soraya is calling everyone. Anna replies that she wants to read more and is also enjoying Sister Echo's singing. Purplehead then reveals that even Echo admires Anna for her abilities among all the witches here. In response, our Anna asks why. Lady Scroll explains that Echo isn't from Grey Castle but hails from the southernmost continent. She was brought to Grey Castle by slave traders from Clearwater Port, where she was trained in techniques to seduce men to fetch higher prices. Though her current life is better, her past remains a mystery which was full of sorrow, and she was torn from her family and landed far away from home. Anna feels sad for her, and Lady Scroll adds that for Echo, having a power like Anna's is like winning the lottery, considering her singing isn't exactly a career booster. The sister then gives our girl a reassuring pat, saying she doesn't need to worry about anything since witches are no longer desperate and destitute in this place. Anna, being the first witch our hero met, gets all the credit from Lady Scroll for becoming a reason for comfort to the others. Purplehead notices something that creeps Anna out. She points out that her hair is a bit long and asks if nobody has cut it. Anna blushes, saying she cuts it herself all the time. Lady Scroll assures her that she's going to give her a proper haircut and proudly claims that back in the association, she was the one who cut every sister's hair. After a while, she brings her tools, ties Anna's hair with a cloth, and proceeds to cut it while telling her that she used to make a living with this barber profession. Anna then hesitantly asks a question, mentioning that the book she read yesterday had many stories where the prince always ends up marrying the princess and making her his wife. She asks why the prince always has to marry the duke's daughter. Sister Scroll explains that's just how things are, but Anna immediately questions why, asking what if a person doesn't like princesses or noble ladies. Sister Scroll responds that regardless of personal preference, the prince would still have to marry someone of noble blood because it's likely he will become king, and a king's marriage is dictated by political affairs. Additionally, it's crucial for a king to have pure blood offspring. Anna is definitely thrown off by this revelation because she might have been hoping for a chance to marry Prince Roland. But I guess she doesn't have a shot since witches can't reproduce. Even Lady Scroll understands that much, and she doesn't want Anna to feel upset about it. Once she is finally done cutting her hair, Anna looks cute and beautiful, and Lady Scroll decides to change her stories from now on. She tells Anna that she's heading back to her room and instructs her to come find her if she reads anything she doesn't understand. But before she can leave, Anna speaks up again, saying our prince isn't like the ones in the stories, because he does what he wants, no matter what. Purplehead asks why she thinks that way. Anna reminds her that if he were just any prince, he wouldn't have saved her. A while later, we see our prince holding a piece of paper with the Pythagorean theorem written on it. He teaches Sister Scroll a bit about algebra and tells her he'll be writing a few more equations for her to memorize. The prince asks if she gets it, and the lady nods, takes a deep breath, and uses her ability to memorize the equation. Looks like our hero is trying to preserve his math knowledge before his memory declines. Since he was an engineer in his past life, he knows a lot about math and physics and has some basic knowledge of other subjects. So, he's making Scroll memorize the contents he wrote to preserve this knowledge, hoping it can be used in the future to promote education. Meanwhile, he still hasn't figured out what magic really is in this world. Magic is abundant here, and witches use it to bend the natural laws in ways he can't simply compare to other energy sources like electricity. The only way to truly learn about the origin of magic power is to understand the universe itself. He starts thinking about Einstein's discoveries and all that jazz, and figures that maybe scientists in his world had already stumbled upon this magical power, but they had no way to prove its existence since there were no witches around. Suddenly, his daydreaming is interrupted by Lady Scroll, and as the hours pass by, our hero decides to call it a day. The girl gets up from her spot, but before she leaves, she says she's got a question she wants to ask. The boy gives her the go-ahead to speak. So she asks him why he decided to take witches in, and if he wasn't scared of the church threatening him. Roland kinda saw that one coming, but he almost chokes over his tea when she asks if he'd ever marry a witch. While wiping his face, he asks why she had to ask such a random question. But then he starts picturing what it would be like to marry a witch, and memories of Anna flash through his mind. All those nice memories make him grin, and after imagining it, he happily says he'd totally marry a witch. As the night deepens outside, we see Nightingale in her night attire, ready to hit the sack. Damn, I would love to stare at her big hooters, and you can do as well. Just pause the video. Anyway, Wendy, with her eyes always closed, asks where Nightingale is lost in thought and wonders if something good happened because she rarely ever sees her smiling like that. The scene then shifts back to earlier, when Sister Scroll asked the question about whether the hero would marry a witch. It turns out Nightingale was eavesdropping on their conversation, and upon hearing the prince's response, she lights up with a hope. Meanwhile, in the present, Wendy persistently asks the source of her happy smile and wonders if she won a good game of cards. The next day arrives, and we see our soldiers being grilled by their captain, Iron Axe. He's diligently putting them through their paces, and the chief knight is amazed at the energy these guys are exuding. He remembers how, before winter, they were just a bunch of miners and hunters with lazy attitudes, but now they've transformed into full-blown warriors. Still, he knows that once these men taste their first battle, they'll truly become soldiers. Prince Roland arrives at the scene and asks Knight Carter about the progress. The knight says training is going well, but curiously asks about the woman beside him, wondering if she's a witch. The prince happily confirms this and instructs his knight to gather everyone because he has something to announce. The knight immediately calls the soldiers to line up, and once everyone is gathered, our hero begins to speak, first greeting everyone warmly. Out of the blue, Hunter Iron Axe leaps forward like a devil ready to take a life, and Knight Carter immediately goes on high alert, rushing to protect the prince. Suddenly, the man falls to his knees and bows before the witch, calling her clan leader. Everyone present is shocked to hear this news. The scene immediately transitions to a time when a fire dances across the area. We see a young guy with a giant axe cutting down people, and we also witness the same witch screaming in horror as this filthy man's blade claims her most loyal servant. After that, he arrogantly turns to her and asks if she's the last member of the Osha clan. He challenges her to a sacred duel, telling her to stop resisting because her clan has fallen, and her brother and father slain by his hands. According to the rules, he reminds her, her clan will now become his slaves. Looks like her loyal subordinate, Iron Axe, is still alive. So, as this creep makes his move and grabs her chest, her servant steps up, telling him to back off. But bam! Someone decks the guy from behind really hard, and he goes down like a sack of potatoes. This filthy guy keeps humiliating her by stepping over her body. He orders his buddies to haul her off to Clearwater Port, thinking they've hit the jackpot. Meanwhile, her servant is barely hanging on, slowly closing his eyes as consciousness fades away, and the bad guys start loading up their things to make their getaway. In the present moment, Iron Axe further reveals that after losing her, he refused to join any other clan. His sole goal became saving Lady Echo. He explains how he searched countless slave markets all the way from the far south Clearwater Port, but found no leads. He drops to his knees, swearing to the three gods he'll stick to Prince Roland's side for the rest of his life. He admits he failed to control himself when he saw her, so he feels deserving of punishment. The prince steps in, telling him to chill and to get up. The prince then hints that maybe helping the Iron Axe get his revenge for his clan isn't out of the question. Iron Axe lights up, asking if they're really going for it. The prince confirms, saying it's not happening right now, but they will be in future. Iron Axe is thrilled by this news and reassures Lady Echo that she'll eventually be able to return to their homeland. She responds by stating that she's no longer the clan leader. Well, it now finally makes sense why she admired Anna for having powerful magical abilities, because she wanted to stand up for her clan, but she was too powerless against those intruders. Meanwhile, our hero is lost in his own thoughts because what Iron Axe described about the extreme south is really intriguing. Basically, in the south, there is a black goo that flows from the ground and burns for days without evaporating. As he thinks harder, his face lights up as he realizes that he's found an oil jackpot, not just some underground stuff, but a full-on oil fountain. The mere thought of oil has him dreaming of jets and fast cars, because he knows he can bring combustion engines into the mix if he's got oil. So, the prince casually drops that once he's king, he'll allocate resources to claim the extreme south for the Osha clan. Iron Axe practically breaks into a happy dance, thanking our hero and swearing to follow his lead. However, the prince gets serious and reminds Iron Axe that his actions today broke the rules of the First Army, so he's been sentenced to 2 days of lockup. Our army captain takes it in stride and agrees to his punishment. Later on, we find ourselves out in the woods. One of the soldiers asks their buddy what's up with Captain Iron Axe. The buddy corrects him, saying to call him team leader, because the prince wants everyone using their ranks. He then explains Iron Axe's situation, and they hope our hero won't come down too hard on him. As the soldier ponders this, Prince casually strolls up with his crew. Carter snaps everyone to attention, and the soldiers quietly chat about Iron Axe's absence. The prince steps forward and addresses everyone, informing them that their training was paused. Once he finishes what he came to say, they should continue their training. He reveals that the woman next to him is Witch Echo, Iron Axe's long-lost relative. He explains that due to their captain's unreasonable actions, he has been sentenced to 2 days of imprisonment. He emphasizes once again that everyone here is among the First Army's finest soldiers, and a fundamental rule of being a soldier is to follow orders. To drive his point home, the prince asks if they understand, and the soldiers respond with crisp voices, saying yes. Echo then pulls back her hoodie, revealing herself, while the prince continues explaining that she can simulate various sounds, including musical instruments and marching songs. He instructs that her simulated commands will guide their movements, keeping everyone in formation. The soldiers appear puzzled by the concept of these marching songs. Once Echo dramatically tosses aside her robe, the prince adds that in battle, she'll be their banner, like a VIP at a rock show, but for war. He stresses that everyone needs to guard her like their favorite guitar. With the formalities done, Echo starts belting out her song. Her sweet melody floats through the air, and it's not just any random tune but a battle anthem to rally the troops forward. In the middle of the night, the soldiers stand on guard duty when suddenly an arrow pierces one soldier's heart out of the blue. Before they can react, more arrows find their marks, leaving the remaining soldiers screaming in agony. There stands the would-be king, Timothy, clad in golden armor from head to toe, leading an army of thousands of knights. His companions praise him for attacking his sister in the dead of night while she might be sleeping. But Timothy corrects them, saying she's awake now because he purposely sent a diversion army on the main road while bringing elite knights in from the east to catch her off guard. He mentions that even if she wants to escape now, she can't move at night. His knight agrees, stating that withdrawing troops at night is a big taboo, and if she tries it, her whole crew will crumble like cookies. But then, the twisted brother reveals he knows his sister well, confident she'll cowardly flee, leaving her citizens behind to be butchered. But he is sure that he will catch her, dead set that she won't slip his grasp even if she makes it to Clearwater Port. The knight lays out their battle plan. He'll hit Eagle City hard while Timothy hunts for Garcia. With the plan set, Timothy pumps up his soldiers, telling them to wave the Grey Castle Kingdom's flag high. They charge toward the frightened soldiers, knocking them down before they can even think of running. The knight grins at the chaos, promising their king they'll scatter their enemies like dust. Timothy scans the surroundings in search of his other knight, Francis, who was supposed to lead the diversion as a decoy. Since Francis hasn't returned yet, the king is convinced that the greedy bastard must be off plundering Garcia's treasures for himself. Suddenly, his knight's face goes pale as he points his finger at front. Once he looks in that direction, they see a silhouette of a massive army, which is led by Garcia Wimbledon, proudly waving her flag as Queen of Clearwater. With confidence in her tone, she rallies her soldiers not to fear, and they raise their spears, ready for action. While she smiles confidently, her brother, however, is totally pissed off to see there with her army. But even as confident as she might be, he's sure that this will be the last time she acts brave, because he's looking forward to destroying her and her army. Meanwhile, we're at the entrance of Garcia's Eagle City, and there we spot Francis. As he enters the city, he sees terrified locals who immediately shut their doors and windows upon seeing the platoon. Francis is starting to get suspicious by now. He knows the third princess isn't dumb enough to leave the walls undefended. Suddenly, his nose picks up a weird smell, and he tells everyone, "It stinks here. Head to the town hall." Well, it seems like something is indeed rotting inside the sewerage. Once they reach the town hall, the knight enters the hall along with his soldiers. A while later, the soldier tells the Duke they've searched the basement but found nothing valuable. Well, the Duke flips out, kicking stuff violently around. He finally realizes it was her plan all along. If she had been in a hurry to retreat, she wouldn't have ransacked the entire castle for valuables. It looks like she was prepared to abandon the city long before. Right on cue, he gets more bad news, which is that the North Gate is on fire.